It's day 8 for Occupy DC protesters, but can they outlast permit issues? We'll take you downtown to find out with a full report up next.
And on the other side of the world, oil is covering the New Zealand beaches. How will it affect the wildlife? A report from New Zealand. District Wire News starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Ada Ortega.
And I'm Rachel Demita. The Occupy DC protest has been marching around the city all weekend, and they don't plan on taking their tents down anytime soon. Zach Drescher has more on the protests here in DC.
An anti-war, anti-government protest is still alive in Washington today. The Occupy DC and Veterans for Peace protest had a permit to stay in Freedom Plaza near the Federal Triangle area. That expired Sunday night. But the tent city had not moved on Monday morning, and the police were nowhere in sight.
They told us don't occupy the square. They said don't put up tents. They said don't serve hot food. They said, and we violated every taboo they've given us for 3 days.
At this time last week, the Occupy DC movement consisted of about 12 people in McPherson Square. Today, the protest is much larger and much more organized. Protesters got started with a morning meeting. They organized marches throughout the city, from Union Station to the Convention Center. But the protest is not just about walking and chanting.
My understanding was that there would be a march over to a homeless shelter nearby, and I would like to participate in that. Back in my hometown, I'm very active with the homeless shelter that we've recently established there.
The protesters also discussed what to do in case the police do come. Many were planning to simply walk across the street and wait for the cops to leave, but others wanted to make a different statement.
I'm hoping to get arrested this afternoon and to come back and get arrested again tomorrow up on the Hill, and basically to come back every 3 or 4 days, like stay overnight, get arrested again. Congress
gets back to work tomorrow morning, and while the specifics haven't been hashed out, one thing is for sure, the Occupy DC protest will be there. In Freedom Plaza, I'm Zach Drescher, District Wire News.
The Occupy Wall Street protests are creating mass appeal across the United States. Cities across the country are standing together and forming their own Occupy protests, taking after the New York City crowds. From Connecticut to California, citizens are joining together under the message of corporate greed and a poor economy. It has been 24 days since the original Occupy Wall Street was formed in New York City, and their message of representing the 99% of Americans is a message everyone can latch onto.
With unemployment rates at 9.1%, Obama is making a push for lawmakers to pass his jobs bill. And tomorrow the Senate is voting. The bill will cost $447 billion, and many Republicans are opposing how it's paid. Democrats support the tax on the wealthy, but neither party has fully agreed to the entire bill.
The U.S. Justice Department is blocking Alabama's strict immigration law. Lawyers are asking for an appeal quickly because Hispanic immigrants are reportedly fleeing the state and taking their children out of school. Parents are also signing papers so others can take their children if they are arrested or deported. The federal courts are still looking at immigration laws in Arizona, Georgia, Indiana, and Utah.
California undocumented students can now apply for state financial aid and scholarships. The second part of the bill was just signed this Saturday. Kayla Fenner has more on the story.
California Governor Jerry Brown signed the second part of the California Dream Bill on Saturday. The bill allows illegal immigrants to apply for scholarships and financial aid at California state colleges and universities. In order to apply, students must have gone to an American high school for at least 3 years, received a high school diploma or GED, and must be applying for U.S. citizenship. American University Center for Multicultural Affairs talks about some of the benefits this law provides for young immigrant students.
I think that a lot of people are not well informed about the DREAM Act and don't understand that these students who want to get financial assistance have the GPA. In many ways, I've met many students who are they're valedictorians and whatnot in their schools, but they just don't have the documentation.
Access to education is seen as a gateway to social mobility. It makes, in my mind, I think that the positive of this is that you are allowing everyone here equally to have access to education and to have access to establish a better life for themselves, which is ultimately what America was founded on.
Part 1 of the California DREAM Act will begin January 1st, 2012. This will allow immigrant students to apply for private scholarships. Part 2 of the law will begin in 2013.
It's a really good opportunity. It has a lot of well intent to provide people who are in the process of becoming citizens of our country, give them a better chance to contribute and give back.
California hopes that this bill will give a positive example for the rest of the U.S. on how to deal with difficult immigration issues. From Washington, this is Kayla Fenner with District Wire News.
The Egyptian Coptic Church is blasting Egyptian authorities for the deaths of 26 people. The Christian protesters were staging a peaceful demonstration in Cairo after an attack on their church. Spreading all over Tahrir Square, the clashes brought out a deployment of more than 1,000 security forces. Sunday's violence was the worst in Egypt since the uprising that ousted Hosni Mubarak in February.
A man and woman were found dead on Saturday in a Bethesda apartment. Police say it appears to be a homicide and a suicide of Martin Shan O'Toole and Hong Trang Tracy Vu. Police arrived at the scene around 2 a.m. and found them dead in a bedroom. The circumstances of the deaths are under investigation.
This weekend's metro station closures have some riders and business owners quite surprised. 3 major DC metro stations are shut down due to Columbus Day weekend track work and will not be reopening until Tuesday morning. The closure of Shaw, U Street, and Columbia Heights stations on the green and yellow lines coincide with the Taste of DC Festival going along Pennsylvania Avenue downtown. Shuttle buses are carrying riders to and from these major stations and between East and West Falls Church stations on the Orange Line. Metro officials urge users to continue to check on the Metro website for track delays and updates throughout the year.
The Federal Transit Administration gave the Purple Line project approval to enter the preliminary engineering phase. With FTA approval, plans for the Purple Line, the 16-mile light rail, will connect Bethesda and New Carlton with 19 stops in between. Work will become more detailed and cost estimates will be drawn up on a schedule. Governor Martin O'Malley says that the Purple Line project will act as a job-creating investment that will also promote Maryland's economic growth.
7 people, including a 4-year-old, were rescued by the Coast Guard this Sunday. After treading water off the coast off the Florida Keys for about 20 hours, a commercial boat spotted the group of people clinging on the overturned boat and alerted the Coast Guard right away. An 80-year-old woman who was among the group is missing. The Coast Guard says she most likely drowned.
An oil spill in New Zealand is making the waters off Tauranga City highly toxic. The spill happened 5 days ago after a container ship struck a reef in the Bay of Plenty. CNN's Donna Marie Lever has more on the story.
The worst possible outcome. Thick black oil has hit the beach and it's arrived well ahead of schedule.
It's pretty scary really for us. There's already a chap down there and he's picked up a couple of dead birds, and so we just don't want it to happen.
This highly toxic mess is scattered down kilometres of the pristine coastline. The tourist hotspot littered with dead birds doused in oil, and it's the locals, not authorities, picking them up.
Oh yeah, I think everyone's worried on. Well, look at the beach. It's a beautiful beach, and it's bucketed from oil. They're going to have to hold someone responsible and hopefully clean it up.
Locals are being warned not to touch this with their bare hands. It's thought to be highly toxic. You can see it's formed into a tar-like substance and it has a stench of oil.
The water too is gleaming with waste, but whereas the Army of Help promised to clean it all up.
Nobody's down here yet. I thought they'd be here already on it.
Bevan Waller rang authorities.
It's frustrating that nobody's here yet, and we knew it was coming.
Yet still hours later, no response. Just curious residents wanting a closer look.
It's disgusting.
Then a buggy full of teenage boys from the local surf club start to spread the word.
We're just down here making sure people don't touch the oil and whatnot.
But the lack of any official action is leaving locals furious, and they won't wait any longer.
Well, the tide's coming in and it's only going to make everything worse.
5 hours after the oil was first reported, a public health warning was finally issued, and the public are now being told to stay away from the beach.
Mexico's Pacific coast is tracking the strength of Hurricane Jova. The storm is building up to a major Category 3 hurricane and threatening the beach resorts of Barra de Navidad. Hotels in the hurricane's path are already taking precautions and getting ready for the hurricane to hit this Tuesday.
Coming up after the break, good news for drivers. Gas prices are going down and they are falling fast. We'll tell you how much you will have to pay for a gallon in the district after the break.
And DC City Council changes its mind about free food for DC senior citizens. We'll explain why. Stay with us.